All right, guys. So the Senate parliamentarian has basically killed the hopes and dreams of all the progressive Democrats who were hoping for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Now, the reason why their dreams are killed is not necessarily just because of the Senate parliamentarian. It's really because Joe Biden is what all the progressives thought he was. He's a moderate Democrat who does not really want a minimum wage increase, and he was playing them the whole time. That's right. Biden was playing the progressives the whole time, guys. And this is a great story because it really shows how politics works. It's kind of similar to what McConnell was trying to do and the things that he's done in the past in the Republican Party, right? Pretending that you're fighting for something, right? Or at least not fighting as hard as you can for something, okay? Telling everybody that the whole party wants a certain thing. For example, right? Repealing Obamacare, right? The Republicans told us, we want to repeal Obamacare. We're going to do everything we can to repeal Obamacare, right? Come time to vote on it, back in, I think 2018, they folded, right? They folded. Then they tried to send it to the Supreme Court just for John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh to essentially kill that dream as well, right? They tried to get the Supreme Court to do their dirty work, but they probably knew that the Supreme Court wasn't going to do it. Just like Joe Biden knew that the Senate parliamentarian was not going to go for the minimum wage increase in the COVID-19 relief bill. Therefore, it was okay for them to come out and act like they really wanted it. Okay. And the reason why I know this is because the Democrats still have an opportunity, if they really want it, to push for it and to get it done, regardless of what the Senate parliamentarian says. However, Joe's basically saying that's not going to happen, right? Which basically tells us that they don't want it. So before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman, and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share. A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys, let's take a look at the news, right? Regarding the Senate ruling says Democrats can't put the $15 an hour minimum wage in the COVID bill. The parliamentarian said the provision violates the rules and cannot be included. Let's read here. A ruling in the Senate on Thursday dealt a severe blow to Democrats' hopes of raising the minimum wage in the COVID-19 relief package, probably dooming the proposal in the legislation that is headed for a vote in Congress. The parliamentarian, the in-house referee, ruled that the provision was not compliant with the rules governing the budget process that Congress is using to pass the bill with simple majorities. All right, guys, so this refers to the so-called Byrd rule, right? In which the Byrd rule basically says that, this package during the reconciliation process, you have to have things that are attached to the budget that are going to affect the budget. Now, the Democrats have basically argued that raising the minimum wage, and they've used the Congressional Budget Office to back their points the same way the Republicans have used the Congressional Budget Office to back their points. They're basically saying that the government would save money from raising the minimum wage because that would be more people that now have a living wage and therefore will be less dependent on government assistance programs like food stamps, for example. Okay. And that's essentially their argument to say, well, it would save the government money to essentially put that on the back of small businesses and big corporations in America rather than on the back of the government, right? That's essentially their argument for why the minimum wage increase affects the budget, right? But fortunately for conservatives and unfortunately for the progressives, the Senate parliamentarian wasn't buying into it. Quote, "We are deeply disappointed in this decision," said Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Quote, "We are not going to give up the fight to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour to help millions of struggling American workers and their families. The American people deserve it, and we are committed to making it a reality." Sure you are, Chuck Schumer. And I'm just saying, guys, because I'm happy that the Democrats are pretending, right, to want a $15 an hour minimum wage, because I don't want a $15 an hour minimum wage, right? I'm against the minimum wage increase. But I'm calling them out because they're promising things that they're not actually really fighting for. And I'm going to show you why they're not really fighting for it in a minute. The so-called Byrd rule limits acceptable provisions in the reconciliation process to those that involve taxing and spending. Democrats can still try to pass a wage hike through regular order, but that would require 60 votes, which all but ensures failure because of lack of Republican support. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, the ranking Republican on the Budget Committee, praised the referee's ruling. Quote, very pleased the Senate parliamentarian has ruled that a minimum wage increase is an inappropriate policy change in reconciliation, Graham said in a statement. This decision reinforces reconciliation cannot be used as a vehicle to pass major legislative change by either party or a simple majority vote. This decision will, over time, reinforce the traditions of the Senate. Democrats, led by Senate Budget Committee Chair Bernie Sanders, had made a case for including the provision. Can you imagine? The Senate Budget Committee Chair is Bernie Sanders. Bolshevik Bernie. No wonder. The COVID-19 relief package is full of junk. Okay, you got Bernie leading the Senate Budget Committee, right? But I'm not sure exactly how much say he actually really has on anything, but we'll see. Bernie said he strongly disagreed with the ruling and suggested another way to provide incentives for a wage hike through the budget process. In the coming days, I'll be working with colleagues in the Senate to move forward with an amendment to take tax deductions away from large profitable corporations that don't pay workers at least $15 an hour and to provide small businesses with the incentive they need to raise wages, he said in a statement. That amendment should be included in this reconciliation bill. Senate Finance Committee Chair Ron Wyden, Democrat Oregon, said he would consider another way to raise wages. I'm looking at a tax penalty for mega corporations that refuse to pay living wage, Wyden said in a statement provided by his office. All right, so as you see, Bernie Sanders is basically proposing to punish corporations and businesses that don't pay $15 an hour. So they're trying to weasel their way around it, right, in a certain extent, by trying to attach the $15 an hour minimum wage to a more direct effect on the budget, right, through implementation of taxes and penalties. So, people like Bernie Sanders, who really do believe in a $15 an hour minimum wage, that, again, I don't agree with, he's going to continue to fight for this, right? The question is whether or not the establishment Democrats and the moderate Democrats like Joe Biden is going to continue to fight for it. The House, which isn't constrained by Senate restrictions, is expected to take up the COVID-19 relief bill Friday. Speaker Nancy Pelosi said House Democrats believe the minimum wage hike is necessary. Sure you believe that, Nancy. And added, therefore, this provision will remain in the American Rescue Plan on the floor tomorrow. Now, guys, it doesn't really matter if it passes the House, right, with the $15 an hour minimum wage, because once it goes to the Senate, as things currently stand, they're going to have to take it out, and then the Senate is going to vote on it, and then it's going to go back to the House, and the House is going to have to vote on it again without the $15 an hour minimum wage as it stands now, which will be interesting to see if the progressives vote to pass the bill again without the $15 an hour minimum wage. That will be a real interesting thing to see. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democrat in New York, a leading proponent of the $15 an hour minimum wage, said before the ruling that it would be unacceptable for Democrats to willingly back off the provision, but she acknowledged that the parliamentarian could rule it to be non-compliant. The parliamentarian is essentially a legislative referee. Ocasio-Cortez told reporters if something's out of bounds, it's out of bounds as per the rules. Senate experts say Vice President Kamala Harris has the authority to ignore the parliamentarian and rule the wage hike to be compliant, but the White House isn't considering that. And that, my friends, is how you know that the Democrats don't really want this, okay? Or at least the moderate Democrats, put it that way, right? The Joe Bidens of the world. I'm not sure about Kamala, because right now Joe Biden is probably still running stuff for the most part. But if the Democrats really wanted this, they would just overrule the parliamentarian, right? And guys, this type of stuff is where a lot of progressives critique the moderate Democrats to say that they're not fighting hard enough because of stuff like this, where there's a little roadblock in the way that Biden knew would be there, right? Because Biden kept saying over the past few weeks, he was like, well, I don't think it's really going to go through, right? I'm going to push for it, but I don't think it's really going to go through, right? Because he basically knew that the Senate parliamentarian was going to rule against it. Matter of fact, he was probably hoping that the Senate parliamentarian was going to rule against it. So therefore, they wouldn't be stuck in a sticky situation of actually having to vote for it, right, in the Senate. So Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Joe Biden publicly can say whatever they want, right, in regards to what they're for. However, if they know that the actual process would be stopped by somebody who is nonpartisan, they could just blame it on her and say, well, we fought for it. We tried. Again, guys, don't get it twisted. I am not criticizing them because they're not raising the minimum wage $15 an hour. I'm criticizing them because they're not fulfilling their promises. They're pretending to be fighting for something they're not actually fighting for. Now, am I glad they're basically pretending? Yes, right? To a certain extent, because I don't want this policy. But at the same time, we need to show people that the Democrats are finessers, right? We say McConnell finesse, right? We've seen that finesse. This is how the Democrats finesse. They pretend they're fighting for things that they don't really actually want. Okay? That's what Democrats do. It's the same thing with $2,000 stimulus check. We're going to give you the $2,000 stimulus checks immediately. Guess what? If the Democrats were smart, the first day Biden took office, he would have proposed just a one-page bill to send $2,000 stimulus checks out to the American people right now, right? Make the Republicans vote on it right then, right? That would have been a smart political move, and that would have started his presidency off with a bang. But see, the Democrats, right, fortunately for Republicans, are not politically savvy enough, and they're not smart enough, in my opinion, to make those type of moves. So that's the thing. Again, I'm just analyzing this from a political analysis perspective. Obviously, again, I have to reiterate here, I'm not for the minimum wage increase. I just find it interesting how the Democrats are sneakily trying to renege on their promises, right? And this isn't the first one. Obviously, the $2,000 stimulus checks come to mind in terms of the first promise they reneged on. Now is this one. Because if they really want this, they could just overrule the Senate parliamentarian and force the Blue Dog Democrats, like Joe Manchin, to get in line. That's literally what they can do if they really wanted it. But we know they don't want it because they're not even trying to overrule the process and give it a vote. Something they totally can do. It says here, President Biden is disappointed in this outcome. Sure he is. Right? White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said, but she added that he respects the parliamentary's decision and the Senate's process. She said that he will work with Congress to determine the best path forward on a $15 an hour wage, but that in the meantime, he urges Congress to move quickly to pass the American Rescue Plan. So basically what he's saying here is that we're going to ditch the $15 an hour minimum wage. We tried. We're done with it. We're going to move forward with the rest of the COVID relief bill. Because if they have to go back and redo the whole $15 an hour minimum wage thing to try to make it fit, that's going to push back the COVID relief package even more. Okay, and that's the reason why they took so long on this, right? They wanted, see, this stuff is all calculated, guys. They wanted to push it back as far as they can to their self-imposed deadline, which is mid-March, right? I think that's when unemployment benefits run out. They wanted to do that. So when the Senate parliamentarian rules that $15 an hour minimum wage is not allowed, what will happen is that it forces them to say, well, we don't have time to go back and try to renegotiate on this. We just need to cut it and move forward if we want to get help to American people as fast as possible. That's going to be the talking point moving forward, right? And guys, this is politics. All this stuff is calculated. The parliamentarians' ruling immediately revived calls for some progressive activists for Democrats to abolish the Senate's 60-vote threshold to pass most legislation, which they can do with a majority vote. Eli Zupnik, a spokesperson for the Fix Our Senate coalition, said there is no reason for the party not to extend the simple majority process it is using for COVID relief to increase the minimum wage, pass H.R. 1 and the Voting Rights Act, and deliver on many popular promises they made that Senator McConnell can currently veto with a filibuster. Yeah, so, I mean, there are options there if they really want it. Right? That's the whole point. The whole point is that they don't really want it. This is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris basically trying to finesse the progressives and say that we're trying, but they're not actually really trying, right? And keep in mind, while they're doing this, they're trying to push the Equality Act, okay? They're trying to push things that are distractions to what's actually in that COVID-19 bill, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. All this stuff is calculated. They can sit up there and say all they want. Oh, we want this, we want that. The Democrats always overpromise and underdeliver. Again, which is good for conservatives to a certain extent, right? But it really just shows the rift in the Democrat Party between the progressives and the establishment Democrats, and kind of what the progressives have been complaining about in regards to their beef with the establishment Democrats, that the establishment Democrats aren't really fighting that hard for progressive causes, right? Which, again, is good for conservatives. But I just find it interesting, right? Just from a political standpoint, just from a political analysis standpoint, how that dynamic is shaping up with this COVID-19 relief bill. I also find it hilarious how the Democrats did not care about precedent or, rules or anything like that when it came to the Trump impeachment. When it came down to impeaching Trump, they did everything they could to try to move forward with a process that could have been unconstitutional. Okay? But now all of a sudden, they care about rules, right? When it comes to this $15 an hour minimum wage, they're like, oh, no. We can't overrule the Senate parliamentarian, not even an elected official. Can't overrule her, right? Says the elected officials, but can put a man on trial, right, during an impeachment process who's not currently in office. It just goes to show how they use the hate of Trump to hide and mask their agenda, right? And the Democrats fall for it every single time. Hook, line, and sinker. Let me know what you guys think. It looks like the $15 an hour minimum wage is effectively dead as of right now. We will see if it's revived. I thought that, initially a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, this is something they're going to push for. They're going to try to get it. But again, they pulled the old rabbit out of the hat like the Democrats usually do, and they folded. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.